everybody, and welcome back to my channel. This week we are coloring with crayons. I know Echo Gillette has done a video on this. It's actually kind of where I got this idea. But so yeah, all credit for this video idea goes to her. But I thought it would be fun to try out because as a child we all played with crayons, and I remember using the scratch technique that she showed in the video on some of my drawings as a child. And I always thought it was really, like, I just discovered that you could scratch off the wax, and I thought it was very satisfying. And so I just do that and listen to the teacher talk and go on and on and on about spelling and crap. And school's important. But as a second grader, you want to color more than you want to listen to your teacher about spelling and math and whatnot. But so yeah, so I'm taking some of her recommendations. I also came up with a couple of different ways of blending the crayon for myself. So she would take two tones that were similar and press really, really hard and kind of get a gradient that way. What I did was a little bit different. I would go really lightly, and you would get a bunch of white space in between, that textured color that I don't like. Never have. But so I'd go over it lightly and then go over it with another color and then continue to go over it with various colors until I got the gradient I wanted. So in the end, my gradients were very, very smooth, and you could you could tell the difference. I didn't have a pencil, so I used my thumb. I at one point also tried a pocket knife, but that was too sharp. Also, it didn't work. Also, if you're going to use a pocket knife for any reason, please be careful. Use adult supervision. Or if you are an adult, be careful. But yeah, but that's how I did it. And for this specific piece, I used like a lighter color for a highlight on one edge, and I used medium pressure, and then I went over it with, and then I did my shadows on the other side, and then I went over it with the base color I wanted, and I found that that helped blend things fairly well. I say a lot, I'm sorry. But that is how I did this. I also took a, what are they called? A tortillon. You'll see later on in the video. One of those blending stumps. People call them tortillons, blending stumps, whatever. And that was able to, with a fair amount of pressure, mind you. My arm was very tired by the time I was done with this. But using the blending stump with a fair amount of pressure, it was able to move the wax around and blend it into one another also. So that is how I did the majority of the tail. But yeah, this was actually really fun. Crayons are very inexpensive. I went out and had to buy a pack, and I got a 36 pack for $2.50 at Target. I'm sure you could find it cheaper at Walmart, maybe. Amazon also. But yeah, I actually rather enjoyed this. And I also used an eraser to blend the pigments together. And on the sides I used an eraser for cleanup. So I wasn't the cleanest with some of my coloring. Like I said, I was trying to lay down a lot of pigment. My arm was getting tired. Went over the lines a little bit. But in the final product, you can't tell in a fair amount of those places because the eraser just picked the pigment right up. But yeah, for blending, that is what I did. I did a bunch of light layers and layered each color on top of each other. And you can look at it and go, oh, that's not blended very well. But then when you scrape the top layer off, it's blended underneath. Because you can get excess pigment of one color on top, but there won't be excess pigment of the other. But there won't be any excess pigment underneath. One thing to note though is with the tortillon or the blending stump, you don't really need to remove very much excess pigment because it all gets grounded in the paper. With an eraser, you do. I read on one of the comments of her videos that you could also use like oil paint thinner. Oh, what's it called? I can't remember. Or mineral spirits, water, whatever. And that kind of melts the crayon together. So that's another way you can blend stuff. But I found this way worked really well, and you don't need any extra this or that. And if you don't have a blending stump, you can just take a piece of paper and either you can make a tortillon. There are a bunch of different how-tos on that on YouTube, or you can just kind of scrunch it up into a ball and roughly, using a fair amount of pressure, run it over. But yeah, another thing I found was that if you wanted a lighter spot, I would go down with white, and that would make it so the colored pigment I wanted to use couldn't stick to the paper, obviously, and so it was easier to get a lighter, for the pearl or whatever you want to call it, it was easier to get a lighter center. But yeah, that is what I did this week. I hope you all enjoy it, and I will see you all next week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, bye guys!